Okay, hey, we're welcome to an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. I have another cool review for you guys from the brand Venezianico. They're an Italian brand that was founded back in 2017, which was actually a rebrand from a 2015 original start. And you know, there were some growing pains along the way, but the brand has really made an effort to earn its way back into the enthusiast market. In terms of type of watch, this is an everyday watch. Some key characteristics and design, which look for something you can wear every day. Of course, you want to find that versatile blend of both sporty and dressy attributes. This is known as their Arsenale 37, and it's a downsized version of their popular 40mm integrated steel bracelet model. This will go for $985 direct, and it is a looker, and it is downsized. So does it hit the sweet spot? I guess we'll have to find out. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, so as you can see, definitely quite handsome. Check out this mother of pearl dial with that Fumé finish. Definitely very, very nice. Of course, it is reflecting off of a black camera lens, so all of those polished surfaces from the hands to the indices, they're going to appear, you know, hey, a little bit darker there than they would in real life. But if we just put a piece of a board up here to reflect off of, you can see quite high contrast, so nice and visible. So don't be too worried about that there. Now, in terms of dimensions, guys, this is much smaller at 37mm, 9mm thick, and then 41mm lug to lug. It's going to have stainless steel with brushed and polished finishes, as you guys can see there. Flat sapphire crystal with an inner anti-reflective coating, and then a screw-down crown that is nicely signed as well, as you can see. Now, inside, although you can't see it through this nicely etched case back here, it's going to be your automatic Mionda 9039, which is a no-date movement, beats at 4 hertz. With a power reserve of 42 hours, so 28,800 vibrations per hour in terms of that beat rate, and you know, just shy of 2 days in terms of the power reserve. Now, in terms of the dial, you're going to have this very nice Fumé mother of pearl dial with applied indices as well as an applied logo, which does stand out quite nicely. Polished hands, of course, and then BGW9 Superluminova. You're also going to get 5 atmospheres or 50 meters of water resistance, which is a bit more confidence inspiring thanks to that screw down crown. And then you're going to have integrated lugs, of course, that are H-linked. So this is flat brushed H-link bracelet. It does have screw pin construction, which is quite nice, as you can see here. Very good. And it does have this butterfly deployment clasp, which is signed and is sequential, so you have to put on down one side, then the other side for everything to close nicely. I will say the taper is a bit more aggressive than I would have preferred. It tapers down to 15.5mm, and I think the case of the watch, the head, is quite good, but then I do think it's a bit of a dramatic taper, unfortunately. But with that said, let's go ahead, get this on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, or 19cm in circumference, I think you're gonna think that this looks quite good, and it does. Of course, even if I get my wrist a bit too close to the camera lens, you're gonna also notice it still looks quite good, even though there's a fair amount of perspective distortion making the sides of my wrist fall away, as well as the bracelet. But what I'll do is keep my wrist nice and low, just to give you more of a truer aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your own wrist, while still giving you some nice details. But I will say, in the metal, guys, I do think this does wear a bit undersized, unfortunately, and it is mainly because of the dramatic taper. I think if it would have tapered to, you know, something not quite as dramatic, maybe just to 18mm, it would have been a bit better, at least for my preferences. And I think maybe size-wise, I probably would lean closer to maybe a 38mm versus the 37, or 38.5 even, especially considering how thin this timepiece. I think it looks great. Again, I know that on camera it's going to present very well. I know if I was to take a wristwatch check, it would also present really well. And again, a lot of that has to do with how wide the angle is on a phone lens. So it's just going to appear again, even though it's a bit smaller, when you size up some of that perspective distortion, it still looks quite good. Again, I think this is a great looking piece. I would probably lean more towards wearing something like this with a underneath a cuff, just because I believe, yeah, with a long sleeve, a smaller watch definitely gives you a bit more of a vibe, even in this case with that fully integrated bracelet. So with that said, let's go ahead and get this off the wrist, set up for some Lume shots, the light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, pretty nice, right? Like, these are really finely applied indices as well as the coverage on the handset, but it does the job. No, it's not a dive watch. It's not even a sport, super sporty watch in terms of really being reliant on, ultimate legibility, especially with something like a mother of pearl dial and, applied, I should say, high polished indices. But with that said, I always like to work in a bit of a low light transition, because you're always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find stuff coming out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it's nice to see with these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. As you guys can see, guys, that dial is magnificent. The movement in it just feels quite murky and mysterious, and I do like it quite a lot. Ooh. And then, of course, all the flat brushing with the high polished accents, the bevels. Of course, you're going to notice some fingerprints there, but that is not the fault of the manufacturer. That's my fault for it being a, kind of off color, even more warm than usual day in Southern California at the time of filming this. But my goodness, look at that dial. I do very much enjoy that dial. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and get these back on here and get into some closing thoughts on the wrist. Wears thin and flat with a petite proportion. I think that still lays really well on the wrist. It does give off a distinctly expensive and luxurious vibe that makes my Tissot PRX feel quite clunky and unrefined by comparison. In terms of model variants, check the site links for current options and availability. In terms of comparable models, guys, while the Genta-inspired integrated steel sports watch space is more competitive than it's ever been, many more affordable brands tend to fall short of capturing that thin luxury magic. In terms of the bottom line here, the thin mechanical profile and complex level of finishes really sell this one. You pretty much get something that looks and feels more expensive than it is. These types of watches are a great complement to traditional kind of sports watch heavy collections, because you still get the robust steel bracelet, with an elevated package that adds a lot of refinement that you normally wouldn't find in pieces with a larger emphasis on function over form. Whereas this here, it's definitely more of a balance, and a lot of the form is derived from just being quite formidable. This thing is handsome. So with that said, let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit like, and if you're any, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.